Attention all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Hey guys, welcome back. What a big Sunday morning show we've got for you. Just heard Trisha McLaughlin from former Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security breaking down a lot of this controversy. As I said, you're not going to hear this anywhere else. But I'm excited to bring in another guest who has been on my show. Phenomenal explainer of the Democrats' storied career, leading Democratic efforts on the House and for other clients. Julian Epstein joins us now. Julian, thanks for joining us this Sunday morning.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
I got a couple things I want to hit with you, but let's just start with this. You wrote a really interesting piece in the New York. I read it, so I know what you mean. But explain to people because you talk about it in the op-ed. What is a watermelon radical?
Well, the Watermelon Coalition, Watermelon Radical, is sort of a new thing and an old thing. It basically is the alliance of socialism or communism with Islamism. And it's an old thing in the sense that this goes back to Lenin in the 1920s when at the beginning of the Soviet Union, the communists attempted to find common cause with the Islamists because while they had very little in common philosophically, they both wanted to take down the West. And then you saw in the 1960s, 50s, and 60s with Stalin and Brezhnev, the alliance is sort of the second chapter of that alliance where they really tried to shape movements like the Palestinian movement as an anti-colonial movement and use the language of anti-colonialism in order to be more appealing to Western intellectuals, Western liberal intellectuals. And now you're seeing the alliance in the Democratic Party. You're seeing you saw it with the protests on college campuses. You've seen it when the officials in Minnesota weren't willing to go after Somali fraudsters for fear of being called Islamophobic. You've seen it in Manchester, England, where the Green Party allied with Muslims, and they got rid of the Green Party abandoned all of its positions on things like LGBT, which don't appeal to Muslims, because they were looking to form this coalition. It's not a coalition where there's a great deal of historical philosophical alignment, but there is an alignment in the desire to take down and undermine the West. And you're seeing that in the Democratic Party today. You're seeing that when AOC embraces Mohammed Khalil, who is a leader in the Columbia University Apartheid Divest movement. This is a movement that explicitly talks about eradicating the West. This is an organization that applauded and defended Iran in our recent war. So it is a very intensely anti-Western campaign alliance. It is united by the belief that the West is responsible for all the bad things that are happening in the world. It's demented, it's pathological, but it used to be something that was very fringe in the Democratic Party. But I think today it is part of the reason that the Democratic Party is becoming radicalized.
So, Julian Epstein, you have a very storied career. You were a senior advisor, very looked to on key issues to tell the party leaders which way to go. When you espouse things like this now and say, guys, we're going too far, this is too extreme, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is what you write in this New York Post piece. You wrote, Democrats maintain the smug conceit that they're on the right side of history, but except for Fetterman, they seem clearly we're on the wrong side now. When you talk to these people now, do they say, Julian, you've changed, or we've changed, or we have to do what we have to do to keep the base happy? Like how does that conversation go to the extent it even happens?
I think I don't have honest conversations with my friends on the left about it. I think the reason, the culture, I try to, and I think I say to them things like, I haven't changed my position at all. All the things I espouse is exactly what the Democratic Party was a generation ago. In fact, Sean, if you compare Bill Clinton's positions with Donald Trump's positions, I don't care which issue. You could take any issue. You could take immigration. You could take solving the debt crisis. You could take welfare reform. You could go on policing and crime. You could take almost any issue, and they're very similar. And what has happened is the Democrats have gone very, very far left, which explains the polarization of American politics, while the Republicans have pretty much stayed where they were a generation ago. And I think the Republican Party is today the party of centrism. Say what you will about Donald Trump. The political positions of the Republican Party, for the most part, are what would traditionally be defined as centrism. Now, when you try to have this conversation with Democrats, a lot of them will privately acknowledge the point, but people are scared to stand up. They're scared to be called bad names. What the Democrats have done, and particularly the activist left, is when you disagree with them, they call you a bigot or a racism. That intimidates a lot of people. And a lot of Democratic consultants and politicians really, just more than anything else, they want to hold on to their little place in the sun and the party. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to go against the groupthink. This is what led us to think that that Joe Biden could run again for a second term. I came out in early 2023 saying it's a disaster. He shouldn't run. And I was, I got all kinds of arrows from the left. And you can see where groupthink took them then. So it's a problem of groupthink not wanting to rock the boat, and the radicals inside the party, the radical activists, having seized a lot of the energy, the fundraising, the campaign apparatus, and social media. And the reward system in social media today is anger and disdain. Yeah. So you don't get anywhere by saying, hey, let's try and work with the other side. Let's try and find common ground. That doesn't work in the vocabulary of social media. What the vocabulary of social media is, the other side is really bad, and we have to denounce them in as strong a term as we can. And the louder voice we have, the more likes we'll get. And so you have multiple dynamics at play. One is the Watermelon Coalition and the activist left. Another is sort of social media. Another is this sort of reflexive opposition to everything Trump, this sort of Trump derangement syndrome, which I think is real. And you can see it playing out in the war in Iran right now. I mean, a generation ago, half of the Democratic Party at least would have supported some kind of undertaking like this because the threat is real. I think it's imminent and it's existential. I think in another year or two, it would be very hard to take some kind of action against Iran because of the ballistic capability that it would have. And
so you think when someone yells death to America, maybe you should take them seriously? I mean,
well,
yeah,
I just a big gun. If they're trying to get a big gun, yeah.
No, that to me is such a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer as well. You say to Democrats, okay, the key answer, every time the Democrats complain to me about me being a turncoat, I will say to them, for example, I could give you a lot of examples, but the one example I would give you, what is your answer on Iran? You cannot deny the fact that Iran is a real existential threat. You cannot deny the nuclear, the ballistics, the terror armies, the veto on the Strait of Hormuz. You cannot deny these things are existential threats to us. If you don't think what Trump is doing and the administration is doing is the right answer, what is your answer?
That's what I'm so glad you said that, Julian, because here's my point. Hillary Clinton, all these other people are on the record saying the first thing I would do is bomb Iran. I would take him out. And then when Trump does what they said they would do, they go, how dare he? It's almost like politicians are used to being like, how dare he actually do something? Our job as politicians is to say stuff and then not really do it. Like they get mad at Trump for doing what he said he would do. You name checked the Bidens real quick because I want to. There's a couple other things I want to touch on with you, but Jill Biden's got this new book that's coming out. A lot of people believe that she's going to use it to settle some scores. Just from your Democratic strategist standpoint, is this helpful to the party? Like that we're going to be talking about the Bidens again and potentially whether he had the mental acuity to be serving or not?
No, I think.
Or does it not matter?
I think it matters. I think that most Democrats would like to see the Bidens go quietly into the sunset. And I think the fact that they held on so strong in wanting to run, I think was basically an act of narcissism. And it was an act of betrayal against the country and betrayal of the party, because it wasn't good for the party or for the country that he run again. But they were so anxious in hanging on to power that they forced the party into a lie that everyone knew was a lie, that Biden was competent for a second term. And it's just sort of like, it just reminds you of the old Soviet days where sort of like, everyone knows the emperor's not wearing any clothes. Everyone knows the regime is corrupt, but nobody wants to say it because nobody wants to rock the boat and, undermine their own position within the larger ecosystem. And that's how you get the phenomena of groupthink. And I think that her coming out, settling scores, trying to make the case that it was either an effective administration or that it should have run for a second term, nobody believes it. If that's where she's going, I think it's delusional. And I think there's an element of narcissism here. I think it's not advancing anything that is helpful to the Democratic Party at this point.
Well, speaking of that, helping the Democratic Party, this week, we expect in the Senate to see a vote on the Save America Act. Two fundamental things. One, you prove you're a citizen here, and then two, you have to show a photo ID. In the remaining 3 minutes that we have, should Democrats, is this the hill that they should be dying on?
I don't think so. And, I went to the airport the other day and I went through TSA and I now was told I have this option for touchless identification. They can do biometrics and identify you. We live in a very dangerous world. It's not just the issue of voter and ballot security. It is our physical security with sleeper cells in this country. There are things like E-Verify, which I think the administration should be using to enforce immigration laws. There are a lot of reasons that we need to know who's in the country and that we need to verify the validity of who that person is. And, photo ID is one way, biometrics is another way. And I think if Democrats think that there's something discriminatory about it or people can't afford it or get access to it, well, to fix that problem, make IDs free or make them, you can have roving vans that can go into communities and provide it. There's all kinds of solutions, but just simply opposing what, 70, 80% of the American people support and which we need for a whole host of security issues. Democrats are still living in the 1980s. ACLU made this big argument against national ID at that time in terms of Big Brother. Maybe that had some validity 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It doesn't have validity today, given the unstable and the insecure world in which we live. So,
but they don't seem to be facing any. I mean, this is interesting. It is an 80% issue, and frankly, a common sense issue, right? I mean, the thing that I find so fascinating is, to your point about going to an airport, right? It's not just going to an airport. Because you could argue that poor people can't fly or they don't fly or whatever. But poor people get benefits. You have to have an ID to get SNAP or veterans benefits or agricultural benefits or disability. You have to have they make people now put all that money in a checking account. You have to have an ID to open the checking account. I mean, the argument doesn't hold water. And that's kind of where I'm just going. To me, it's an amazing, the emperor truly has no clothes on this argument.
Well, it is the soft bigotry of low expectations, this notion that people of color don't have the wherewithal to figure out how to get an ID. You do these interviews in the streets and you'll find 99 out of 100 think the argument's silly. But I think it's a non-argument. And I think what Democrats should do is simply say, okay, let's stipulate that they have some case that somebody will be disenfranchised. Make the IDs free or make them readily accessible.
But Julian, is that really the argument? I mean, look, can I be honest with you? I don't think that's really the argument. They know that. Georgia proved it. You can do this. This isn't to me, I'm sorry. I just don't believe that that's really what they care about. Like, this is to me, because it was easy. If you want to do it, the answer is, I agree for that. I speak for every Republican. Here's a free ID. That's not what I think what they're really fighting for.
Yeah, but I think the Republicans should say that. I don't hear them saying that enough. You
know what? I love that point. You're right.
Yeah. We will make the IDs free, and we will make an ID available within 2 or 3 miles of every residence, kind of a thing. Whatever the answer is, there are
this is
available answers for it, and I think the Democrats.
Great point.
Again, this is another example of the radicalization of the Democratic Party, listening to this radical activist base that has all kinds of reasons for dragging the party left. It's good for them. It's good for their organization. It's good for their fundraising. It's bad for the party when it comes to the general electorate. If you don't believe me, just look at the polls that came out this week. saying the party, 3/4 of the American people think the party's out of touch.
100%. Julian Epstein, I love the insight. That's a great idea. I'm going to steal it. I'll be using it all week. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday. Anyway, guys.
No credit needed.
Done. Well, you just got it. So the rule is you give it once and then you don't have to again. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us on this Sunday. Please tune in every weekday at 8:30 and then at 6 p.m. on my YouTube channel for The Huddle in the morning and The Sean Spicer Show in the afternoon. I've got a brand new book out, Trump 2.0. You can go on Amazon right now and pre-order it. President Trump wrote the foreword. It's Trump 2.0. Go to Amazon, do that right now. Have a great Sunday. Thanks for being with us on Full Port Press. I'll see you next Sunday.